Hello all and welcome back to Shatter Our Souls with Novaria. Now today I want to take a little bit of a look at Link himself. Now the reason behind this is because since the dawn of storytelling and dare I say the dawn of gaming, we have had uh, there's been a subsection of individuals that have been curious regarding the strength of a given character. And while this information isn't exactly given to us outright, there are a couple things we can use throughout Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild to be able to give at least a ballpark estimation of how strong Link is. And the answer may surprise you. Now, before I get into it, there's a couple different metrics that I tend to use when talking about this type of information. And that is the character's base raw strength, their stamina, their capability of going at for a longer period of time in combat. But we can also go a little bit further by examining their tools that they may use, as well as any additional items that may help them in the future, be it something like a magic or something like, I don't know, a Sheikah slate. We also have to factor in a character's intelligence to some degree, as no matter how deep a bag of tricks is in video games, it is limited primarily by how quick the individual can think and plan ahead using said abilities. So, without further ado, let's take a look at Link's raw strength to start. And this is a game that really showcases just how powerful Link is as far as a raw strength character. Now, some games they treat him as, oh, he needs gauntlets or something extra to be able to lift or move large objects. And to a degree, this is still somewhat true. He needs the magnesis rune to lift boulders or doors and that type of object. But by and large, his capabilities are actually his own physical strength. If you were to take, let's say, the Hylian shield, which is a rather large iron or steel-based shield, it would be what, 80 pounds, give or take a few. You're looking at a very hefty one-armed shield, the likes of which the average individual would struggle to lift, let alone use as a shield. Now this is an important factor because while a character might be able to lift a shield, if they're not able to effectively use it, then it's just extra weight for the sake of extra weight. In Ocarina of Time, this same shield, or same shield design, is used by Young Link and Adult Link. But the Young Link version doesn't have the body strength to be able to lift the shield and use it as a shield properly. Instead, the Hylian shield gets used more like a turtle shell. Assuming that it's about 80 pounds and Link is using it with one arm, that suggests that he has the strength to lift at least 200 to 300 pounds, absolute, just in general. But it gets much more dangerous than that, because if his sword arm is the same strength as his shield arm, you're looking at him dishing out upwards of 200 pounds of force into a fine, sharp blade, which is also absolutely terrifying. But we're not done with raw strength, because there's one action in this game which sets Link far above the strength of any other character in his universe at this time. And that one action is the Lionel Stomp. Now, for those that don't necessarily know, Lionels are about, I'd say, 8 to 10 feet tall, super muscular monsters that are half horse, half human. with clubs or weapons to match. Assuming we're going after the clubbed variety, the half-horse, half-human has the size or strength of about 1,000-ish pounds based on the weight of a Clydesdale and the muscle density of said horse as well. This horse man can charge at the player, Link, with speeds of about 20 to 30 mile an hour. On its own, Link is able to stop a charging line. Not redirect it. Stop it dead in its tracks while it is charging. This suggests a level of raw strength that is almost insurmountable. It is actually kind of ridiculous just how powerful and how strong he is with but one arm. Which would mean that in order to stop a Lionel using the shield, he would not only need the strength to lift the shield, the raw strength to move said shield with enough force to stop the Lionel, and all inertia involved in its movement. Effectively, about 2,000 pounds at least of force in one arm, suggesting that he is absolutely absurdly physically strong. Now, intelligence-wise, Link is average at best. And I want to be clear about this. As Link is not given a voice in these games, he is effectively at the whims of the player. He is the link between you, the player, and all of Hyrule. And so, to say that he has average intelligence is okay. Because of the average intelligence, each player has the opportunity to work around what capabilities he has. Tools, bombs, magnesis, his runes, basically anything and everything that you have access to, he could use with proficiency. But it goes a little bit deeper than that. If we were to look at the sequel game, Tears of the Kingdom, it actually showcases some level of intelligence beyond what your average individual would have. And that is because engineering, the capability of using the ancient Zonai and Sheikah tech to its absolute known extreme, suggests that he is also incredibly adaptable. And that's impressive and useful information to have. The third major statement that we need to find is his stamina. And this one's actually pretty easy. The guy can run for about a solid 3 minutes straight at a longer end. Assuming that he also has stamina boosting food or something of that nature, he can go even longer. Fantastic. How about durability? He is capable, without armor, to withstand the force of a bomb exploding next to him. This on its own is actually terrifying, because it suggests a level of physical strength and durability that is near unmatched by virtually everybody in Zelda as a whole. And as far as his physical capabilities, that's about it. But what about his tools? Link is known within the entire franchise to be effectively a walking Swiss Army knife. And Breath of the Wild is no different. His, I suppose, tool bag is uniquely deep in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom because it doesn't just stop at his runes, but also the abilities of the sages that is granted to him throughout the course of the game. Starting with the sage's abilities, you have Mipha's Grace. Mipha's grace is capable of healing Link from death every 20 minutes, effectively allowing Link to be more combat oriented for longer periods of time. If the opponent cannot defeat him in 20 minutes, then they're not defeating him. That in and of itself makes Link a unstoppable force. Well, close to unstoppable. Secondly, we have Daruk's protection. Now, Daruk's protection is, in my opinion, one of, if not the most useful of the champion's powers. And that is because Daruk's protection allows Link to perfectly block 3 separate attacks every roughly 6 to 8 minutes. I can't remember exacts right now, it's been a while. This effectively means that he not only can revive from death once every 20 minutes, but also negate any powerful attack 3 times. 3 to 9 times in that said 20 minutes. Effectively, he can duel for a exceptionally long time. And if we stopped there, he would already be significantly more powerful than most other characters. But let's take this a little bit further. How about Urbosa's Lightning? Urbosa's Lightning is effectively, if Link does a spin attack, he can call forth lightning from the sky to strike his opponents as he sees fit. Effectively, he now also has the capability of dealing long-range damage to virtually any character out there. And again, this is intentional. This is part of what makes Link so uniquely powerful. Again, he also has Revali's Gale, which allows him to escape from combat briefly to extend that 20 minutes if need be. All 4 of these champions' powers effectively allow Link to battle from a semi-safe haven for as long as he needs to. Again, on its own, powerful. But it somehow gets even worse. As far as raw weapons go, he has single-handed swords such as the Master Sword, boomerangs, spears, and heavy two-handed swords as a general statement for his sword arm, shall we say. And on its own, these are all powerful, but some can be elemental, like flame, lightning, or ice related, effectively stalling his opponent out even longer. Or, in some cases, you can go even a step beyond that and allow him to have access to arrows such as the flame, bomb, lightning, or ice arrows. All else fails, he still has the Shika tech in the palm of his hand, allowing him to also use ancient arrows, which are a somewhat finite resource for part of the game, but all culminate in his capability of taking out larger-than-life opponents with a single shot. If I were to put Link against virtually any other character that has shown up on this channel over the course of the last 2 years, there's only a handful that could possibly take Link down. And this is, honestly, one of the more terrifying aspects of Link. See, from a young age, he was always known to be an avid combatant. He was always somebody who was stronger than average. He attempted as a child to duel one of the captains of the guards in the Knights of Hyrule and absolutely embarrass the Knights captain using only a stick. And this is, again, just part of his general nature as the princess's protector. What I find odd about this particular version, however, is that this Link, specifically, does not have access to the Triforce, at least not that we've seen. Now, all of this is to say that this might not be a descendant of the Hero of Time. This might be a full-on reboot of Zelda. Truth be told, all games kind of fall within a arm's reach of one another. They all exist in the same world, the same universe, but what culminated to get the character to where they exist at that point in time is a little bit up for debate and contention. What do you think? Am I overestimating Link? Or do you feel like maybe, just maybe, he would be stronger than I particularly state? I'd like to hear it down below because who knows? Maybe I am overestimating him. Maybe it's just something gamey. But I argue that most of us have questioned how strong a character can be. Now, one of the most recent series that I've been working on has been beating the Metroid Prime franchise, or the trilogy, on Hyper Mode. And this is kind of the reason why I got thinking about how strong Link is. Because if Samus from Metroid and Link got in a duel, the duel would not be as one-sided as you'd think. True, to some degree, Link is not going to be on an offensive mindset for this entire run. But theoretically, there is a path for the Hylian Knight to win a duel against the most famed and feared bounty hunter in the Metroid universe. So, all this is, I guess, to say that Link is powerful. To be more specific, Link has the capability to reflect projectiles back at their sender. Now, assuming Samus is, of course, using the more natural cannon fire style of fighting, that means that Link effectively could reflect or send back most of her strikes without even batting an eye. This means, in theory, that she would have to get up close and personal, which is more Link's domain to begin with. The duel would be almost like a push and pull. Link would have to be more defensive at a distance, but much more aggressive close at hand. And, I'll be honest, there is a pretty good chance that he would fall. But there is almost equal chance that he could outlast Samus in a battle of attrition. And that's honestly probably one of the most important and prolific things that could happen with the character. Anywho, we have completed the Shrine of, the Tempest of Wind Shrine at the southern tip of the Lanayru province. And we are heading now north through the eastern edge of the Lanayru province off to the Akala region. Now, the Akala region is admittedly one of my favorite regions in the game, but it also is one of those regions that has a lot of, I suppose, smaller details that culminate in it being a little bit more unique and a little more difficult to get your hands on. First and foremost, we are going to need to get through Tingle Islands, or the Tingle Island series, and then head back to the mainland. Once we are back on the mainland, we'll be heading to the Kala Tower, which I'm kind of concerned may in fact be impossible to scale. See, the issue is that a lot of regions in Breath of the Wild exist as kind of later game regions, areas that you're not supposed to get into at 3 hearts or with minimum gear. And one thing that comes up a lot is those red eyes. The malice eyes, if you will, that are effectively joined up with longer trails of malice or whatnot. The idea of it is that it's a gatekeeper. Link has to destroy the eye in order to effectively cross through the gate. This is all well and good. It all makes sense. But the issue is that when you have a large citadel, like Akala, wrapped up in this stuff, you end up in a circumstance where it's not necessarily a straightforward solution in order to access those regions. So, let that be known. And overall, I think there's a possibility, but it's not one that I can personally test until we get there. Anywho, there is one shrine on the Tingle Island trade. Why do I say that? On the Tingle Island series. It is on the last of the islands. Now, this particular shrine ends up being somewhat difficult to access. It's not a hard one to complete, just a hard one to actually get into. It is blocked by a heavy brick, effectively a giant slab of stone, blockades Link from ever accessing the interior portion of the shrine itself. Ordinarily, you would use stasis to open it. And stasis on its own can definitely do a lot, but it's lacking some of the finesse, shall we say. Link, in this particular run, is not capable of smacking it around with an ultra-heavy sword or using the Master Sword to hit the stone to move it and accumulate that kinetic energy. Instead, we have to use Link's bombs. And Link's bombs, while functional, are also incredibly difficult to actually complete said task with, as a direct result of this task requiring about 3 bombs to actually move the slab. Now, you can technically move it inch by inch by throwing bomb after bomb after bomb after bomb and stasising this thing. You'll eventually get it to move. But I will be honest, I threw about 10 minutes at this particular rock just to move it enough that I could actually get to said shrine. Yes, the shrine is completed by the end of the video. Spoilers. But the point is that with these types of challenges, sometimes it's all about thinking outside the box. Playing around with expectations, with goals, with anything and everything that make the game unique. What starts out as a simplistic rule set balloons into something far more difficult and challenging than some players might actually think is possible. Ow. And again, this is by design. One of my favorite things about Zelda and video games as a whole is that games on their own are often more challenging, or often have a level of challenge assigned to them. But with the ingenuity of the player, a game can be played any number of ways. Well, there are certain players that are no-holds-barred perfection type players. Players that understand that a game has limitations. This is fine. A perfectionist mindset might be a speedrunner or a completionist mindset. But for others, video games have a different connotation set for them. Wait, yes, that hurt. And this connotation is that you can take the game as far as you want to take it. For me, that means 3-heart runs, low damage runs, changing up what tools you can use. But it also means, in other circumstances, that I could be doing something totally outside the expectations of the developers. Look at Need for Speed, where I beat the entire game using one of the starter cars. The game is not necessarily punishing me for using said starter car, but rather they're expecting the player to have certain higher tier vehicles by the end. With Zelda, it goes doubly so, where the player can effectively do anything and everything in their power to make the game more fun for them. Anywho, if you like what you see, drop a like, leave a comment down below, and maybe a subscribe if you want to see more. Until next time, I hope you all have a good one.